What's good, y'all, and welcome to another vid. So, Moonton, masters of marketing, have pulled off another stunt headfirst into the ground. Nah, not quite, but there is exactly a 0.5% chance that this is intentional, because if you go to the burger menu, then to the triple people person menu, then into guides, and then into events, and onto the egg hunt events preview, which egg hunt obviously is more like a Easter bunny thing, right? Maybe we had to search for the hints, but what you're going to find is right here the egg hunt events preview, and what it says is the egg hunt events are coming soon. Event exclusive hero Anora is back for a limited time. Join the event to obtain a new skin, the Celestial Consort. Get it for free from the event shop, so free Anora plus skin. And we're going to get the chance to get more copies of her exclusive artifact and Valderon's, as well as a hero skin choice bundle. So let's use our detective brain right here and figure out that 1 + 1 = 2. If Valderon is getting his exclusive artifact for free for everyone during this event, it only stands to reason that we're also getting a Valderon rerun. Which means that every one of you that intends to pull on Pope might have to rethink that decision if you're interested in Valderon. So a Valderon rerun should happen within like the next 2 to 3 weeks. At maximum, depending on when they want to give us that event. I think it's going to be Easter, which is actually in 2 weeks. No, in 3. It's in 17 days. So yeah, Valderon rerun. So let's start with the Queen of the Hour, apparently, and that is Anora. First off, Anora has a bond skill with Imrid. Anora was only available during the anniversary, while Imrid has been available the year round, meaning that some of you might have pulled an Imrid off banner or whatever and are now in a situation where you don't own Anora, but you do own an Imrid, which obviously opens up the question, is it worth it? For example, just for the bonus that Imrid gets from Anora, and I would have to say, oh, probably yes. Because right here, Undying Devotion, obtain hero Anora unlocks the following bonus effect. There's now a 20% chance to inflict an extra stack of Winter Spite, which is really crucial because you want to stack the Winter Spite as much as possible to get to the freeze. And also, you have a revive. When he receives fatal damage for the first time, he turns into an egg, which inherits 50% of his max HP. And if it kills, it deals 200% AoE damage to up to 10 enemies. And if you're able to defend this for 20 seconds, Imrid just comes back. So overall, it adds some utility, it adds some nice effects, but this extra 20% chance of inflicting Winter Spite, it is quite huge. And the other way around, what happens to Anora if you do have her as well as an Imrid? Your Anora is going to be stronger than a usual Anora, because a usual Anora summons a Labor, which has 100% stats and deals 90% AoE to 8 enemies. But if you have an Imrid, you get also 100% stats, but you deal 15% more damage to enemies that are controlled, so stun, slow, freeze, all that stuff, right? And each attack now deals 110% rather than 90%. So you can see it's now 110 rather than 90. Same amount of stats, but 15% damage bonus and a 30% chance to inflict Winter Spite on top of that. So the combination of Anora, Imrid, and Lynx can lead to some nasty Winter Spite shenanigans. What else can Anora do and what can't she do? Anora is the strongest mage in the entire game under a single condition, and that condition is you cannot bring an inspiration hero. If for whatever reason it is impossible for you to provide inspiration to a hero, be it because they're on a tile where there's no tiles around, or because in general, I don't know, Dolores gets insta-frozen. If that is the case, Anora is the strongest mage in the entire game. And the reason for that is because of Sanctity. So Sanctity makes her immune to most buffs and debuffs, and those buffs do include Inspiration. They also include Elowin's rage regen, but they don't include Laurit's rage regen. So you can still put a Laurin next to her, pull her out, and give her a 50% rage buff. But the important part is, because she is immune to most buffs and debuffs, obviously she can't be stunned, frozen, all that nice stuff, or burned. But in exchange, she has massive multipliers and overall just does a massive amount of damage. So, what else does she do in her kit? You have Calamity's Whisper, which is when attacking, her summon has a chance to generate a Noxious Breath. Noxious Breath is just an AoE area of effect for 6 seconds, which deals 20% magic damage per second to up to 8 enemies in range, and airborne units take half the damage instead. When the ultimate is triggered, this effect is guaranteed. And then you have this one, which was one of the more like selling points for Anora, and that was the summon synergy, where it was imagined of her to be like the key piece of making other summons stronger. And that is when on the battlefield increases the attack of Labor by 15%. So overall, Labor just deals 50% more attack, or overall more damage. And then you have this, grants damage increase to other allied summons. So the main benefactor, who obviously released way after the anniversary, is Wukong. If you have an Anora and a Wukong on your field, every single one of Wukong's clones are going to be able to take advantage of this plus 10% damage taken. And do not underestimate the power of Wukong's clones. Another one that came in that can very well do some crazy shenanigans with that buff has to be Zarus. Zarus already does a crap ton amount of damage with his summons, especially if you first deploy him and then triggers ultimate for the very first time. We're looking at like 7 Souls of the Damned, depending on awakenings even higher. And all of those are then going to profit from this 10% damage increase. Outside of that, you then have the ultimate. The ultimate is pretty impressive, and what it does is it pretty much shoots an ice meteor. So your summon, he's going to go crashing onto the ground, dealing 360% AoE magic damage, which doesn't sound like much, but Anora's base stats are so high that even that makes some crazy numbers. You can also see it is Vortex range, the equivalent of Vortex range, so you can even hit the enemies that aren't even in her lane. And also during the ultimate, it increases Labor's damage by 150%. So Labor, her summon, is now going to do even more damage, which compounds with having Imrid already unlocked on your account, as well as extending the attack range lasting for 20 seconds. Now, you might be wondering, okay, this is great and all, yeah, I can't use inspiration. That's kind of sad. And she also can't get rage regen from Elowin. How do you even, like, how is that any good? The answer lies in her exclusive artifact, Scepter of Impiety, which increases her attack by 10%, which doesn't sound like much, but is pretty much working towards being an equivalent of Tear of Twilight. And now after she casts her ultimate, Labor's AoE damage permanently increases by a 5%, stacking up to 3 times. So his AoE damage is going to again get another 15% multiplier. And this is the important part. When Labor kills an enemy, he restores a 3% rage for Anora, and this can trigger 1 time every 5 seconds. So she pretty much has inbuilt self-rage regen. Now the discussion, if you already have an Anora, is it even worth it considering going for her again? Let's check out a couple of those awakenings and let me tell you a bit about how useful they are going to be. So, Noxious Breath is triggered, which is either during the ultimate guaranteed or then at the percentage chance when he attacks. You get an immobilized state for 1 second. Honestly, it's more minor. It might come in very clutch in GVG, but you probably would have seen Anora teams. There might be some Anora teams out there with Anora, Imrid, and Lynx, but yeah, I don't put too much value into this. This attack up is always great, but it's nothing game breaking. Here on the A3, all of a sudden her summon now ignores 20% of the magic res, which is great, already just boosting her potential. And then lastly, you have enemies on tides affected by Noxious Breath receive another 20% additional damage from both the hero and Labor. Overall, the greatest part about Anora is that you're pretty much getting the full bang on value at a 0 already. I wouldn't really recommend going for higher awakenings, but what we are getting is obviously a skin as well as an upgrade to the artifact. So let's check out what were to happen if you were to get another copy. So you can see nothing really changes besides us getting a 2% attack increase, which obviously doesn't sound like much. It's also not a whole lot, but also the base sets are going to go up, and this artifact is in the normal loot pool, meaning that you have the chance to you have the chance to obviously get copies of it, get more copies of it, make it stronger. Let me see if I can find it. Sorrow Bloom, Orb of Ruin. There you go, Theft of Impiety. So there might even be a couple of you out there that have a leveled up Anora's exclusive artifact without even having her, which is kind of hilarious in its own right. Which brings us to the other leaked part of the event, or teased part of the event, which is for Valderon, we are getting his exclusive artifact guaranteed. Now, I've spent a bit of time 2 weeks ago, I think, when it first was announced. I spent a bit of time trying around, seeing what this artifact does, and let me give it to you straight. When it comes to just raw single target damage in single target content, this artifact loses out against, for example, or it loses out against the main contender. The main contender in this case being Wailing Skull. But this artifact is made for one and one single purpose only, and that is Arena. This artifact increases Valderon's damage by 15%, and when his HP drops below 30%, the damage increase is doubled, meaning a 30% damage increase. And what it does is, while usually if you trigger Valderon's ultimate at 100%, the only thing you gain is a chaotic vitality for 20 seconds. That's all you gain. You have to get to 2 rotations or 200% ult charge if you want to gain the longer chaotic vitality at 35 seconds, and on top of that also want to gain the vulnerability at 20%. Now you have a bit of a trade-off where you can trigger it at 100%, and rather than getting the 20% buff, you're only getting a 10% buff, but you can trigger this ult obviously more often, making arena timings come slightly easier. And the crucial part here is Valderon is in the arena going to be always below 30% HP, so it is a straight up 30% damage buff with boost to the ultimate. And obviously this artifact goes crazy when you upgrade it. So obviously starting with one copy, a 15% buff isn't all that impressive. But the crazy part is this goes up all the way to a 30% at 25. So all of a sudden, if you have this or were to have this at 25, you're going to see a 60% increase to Valderon's damage, even in, pretty much a 60%, 100% uptime damage increase plus 10% vulnerability in arena. Oh no, it's actually a 50% increase, but it is still massive. For the Doomblade, honestly, it's more of like a arena exclusive one. Outside of that, I would probably still tell you to go with Wailing Skull, and even at 25, this artifact still loses out against Wailing Skull. Let me actually pull up the numbers real quick if I can. So this was the damage split fully upgraded, giving us 311 million. This was done on Nightmare 4. 311 million on Valderon using a Wailing Skull. 265 million using a Chaotic Doomblade. And 234 million using a Shattered Hilt. So Wailing Skull is still king. This one goated for Arena. And this one I guess you're using when you don't have a Wailing Skull free. Pretty much. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little sneak peek into what's to come, and I'm very interested in Anora's skin. I hope it looks kind of pretty, and we see each other in the next one. Peace. Before we get into Valderon's exclusive artifact,